So an update for you today in the Vince McMahon, Janel Grant lawsuit. Vince McMahon, as you know, facing allegations of abuse and trafficking from former employee Janel Grant. This stems back to a relationship that they had several years ago that ended around 2022. There was a non-disclosure agreement made, which would see Janel Grant receive money from Vince McMahon. And according to the lawsuit, that money wasn't paid. It led to a situation now where this is facing either a public or a private hearing. And the latest in this is Janel Grant's lawyers have now filed a pre-action discovery petition against Dr. Carlon Culker. He is a doctor that Vince McMahon allegedly sent to her over incomplete and inaccurate medical records. What do Janel Grant's lawyers say, Jack?
They say the following statement. On multiple visits, Dr. Culker prescribed Ms. Grant with adrenal trays or adrenal supplement trays provided by his office and instructed her to take the unmarked pills daily. Dr. Culker did not explain the substances, dosages, or purpose of the pills to Ms. Grant beyond purportedly addressing her symptoms of fatigue. When Ms. Grant asked Dr. Culker about the substance of the supplement trays and specifically which substance or substances caused her to experience nausea, he responded with pushback about trust, including, "If you don't trust me, we have bigger problems."
Now, it is also alleged by Janel Grant that an employee at Peak Wellness was involved in, and I quote, several instances of abuse against Miss Grant by McMahon, as further described in Miss Grant's federal complaint. It is alleged that Grant's original lawsuit that a physical therapist from an undisclosed clinic was recruited by Vince McMahon to participate in threesomes, which McMahon and Grant acts that Grant has alleged she was forced into.
Yeah, so we already kind of knew that story with the unnamed person. It seems as though this may be an employee at this Peak Wellness company. So it's kind of putting the pieces together there. But there's a bit more to this story as well. The original lawsuit also states that Vince McMahon urged Grant to see a doctor who is referred to as, quote, celebrity doctor at a, quote, alternative clinic. Dr. Colin Culker is a celebrity doctor, continuing to maybe put these pieces together possibly, and he has previously worked with the likes of Justin Bieber, Jeremy Piven, Kristaps Porzingis, the basketball player, and former basketball player Shaquille O'Neal. Grant's petition also alleges that Culker, quote, routinely treats employees and talent of World Wrestling Entertainment.
So since this request for a discovery petition has come out, a spokesperson for Vince McMahon has responded saying, quote, Ms. Grant's petition for pre-action discovery against Dr. Culker is a direct violation of the court-ordered stay and nothing more than an attempt to generate publicity on her false allegations and to harass people connected to Mr. McMahon, who is being sued by Ms. Grant in a separate matter. The facts are that Ms. Grant told Mr. McMahon she was fatigued and asked him to recommend a doctor. Ms. Grant called Dr. Culker and became a patient of his. Her statement in the filing is inconsistent with her prior remarks. Ms. Grant has never had anything but good things to say about the doctor when speaking to Mr. McMahon and others about him. So the moment the case is in stay, there is other investigations taking place into Mr. McMahon, which means that these proceedings are currently on hold. But this was something that was, and this is where there is issues from Vince McMahon's side, is the fact that they're still looking into this case, despite the fact that they've been told to put it on hold for now.
Right, but then on Janel Grant's side of things, it could be argued, and it seems to be being argued here by her lawyers, that this isn't two separate instances. This all very much seems to be wrapped up in the same overall allegation. So I guess we'll have to wait for it all to be ironed out and sorted out, and then the hearings will proceed, I suppose. But it continues to be a very murky and very often kind of distressing situation to read about these allegations.
And when we know more about it, of course, we'll let you know via cultaholic.com. In other news, let's talk about Dr. Britt Baker. She spoke with Renee Paquette on Close Up, and she was very open about her recent transient ischemic attack, which essentially is a mini stroke that she suffered while she was recovering from injury. She actually talked about the moment in which the mini stroke occurred.
Yeah, she said it was the weirdest thing. I was in Orlando with my hairstylist Amanda. I was sitting down and I just remember feeling sick. Something was off and the room was spinning. I was sick, nauseous, sweating. Something was not right. She could tell right away, Amanda, and asked, "Are you okay?" Asked me if I needed water. I definitely needed water.
First thing that came to mind was something with my neck. When I had the spinning and the vertigo, it must be something with the neck. She hands me water. I go to to open it and my right side doesn't work. It was numb and they couldn't work. It couldn't work. She noticed this and opened the water for me. We both panicked and at the same time said, I think you need to go to the hospital. She said, oh, okay, let's just finish my hair, which we did, which was insane. It got worse and worse. And as soon as we were done, she said, I'm going to go to the hospital. The fact that she stayed there and got her hair done is one thing, but then what she does next, even Britt Baker herself says was ludicrous.
Yes, she says, I actually drove myself. It was 2 blocks away to the hospital. It was stupid. I should not have done that. When you go to the emergency room, you expect to wait. I'm thinking it's going to be hours before I get seen, but they took me in right away. Over the intercom, I hear them say, stroke patient coming back. They tested some stuff, looked in my eyes and reflexes, put me in a wheelchair, and the next thing I know, I'm wheeled back. They're sticking needles in me and all the stickers to go and get tests. It was very quick. The next thing I knew, I'm in my own room with a pamphlet on being a stroke victim. It felt like a minute had gone by since I was getting my hair done and then admitted to the hospital for a week for a mini stroke.
Baker admitted that it was a big reality check, that you have to listen to yourself when you're stressed and overwhelmed, mentally, emotionally, physically. You have to listen to your body and chill the F out sometimes. So many of us fall into that. We have to go. We have to be there. We have to be there for AEW, Tony Khan, the fans, this and that, talking about other people on the roster. Every now and again, we have to be there for us too. We need to chill and relax.
Renee asked her about any lingering effects, and she replied, total recovery. If anything, it put me in a good mindset to focus on me and my body, my mind, everything. Training like a beast. I've been living in the gym. And you could tell when she turned up back to confront Mercedes Moné, she looks in tremendous shape. And I think it's worth noting there when she talked about the pressure of feeling like you have to be there for AEW, be there for Tony Khan. On the flip side of that, she did mention in her big return promo that Tony had given her all the time she needed to recover. So it's more, I think, the internal pressure she means that she puts on herself rather than Tony Khan saying, well, you have to make this day and this day. No, it's very much like the pressure they all feel is very driven.
Yeah, it's internal pressure to be there. I think, when it comes to well-being, the vibe is, I think that if you I think in that, this is the case in wrestling across the board now anyway. It's not like it was in the 90s where you'd flog yourself silly. I think now, whichever company you're working for, there's a lot more understanding of physical and mental health. And I think everybody has things in place where if you need to step away, you step away. And that's across the board. Ending on a bit of WWE flavoured news. If you're going to SmackDown on Friday, you're getting 2 weeks of SmackDown on Friday because they're going to be taping the following week's Friday night show.
They are. PWInsider.com reports that this Friday, WWE will also be taping the July 26th SmackDown, and that's because the WWE crew are on a live event run in Japan, which starts on Thursday, July 25th through to Saturday, July 27th. So that would have been a bit of a nightmare, so they've decided instead, let's just tape it prior and we'll see how it goes. So there probably will be interesting spoilers and stuff floating around.
Very intrigued by what we're going to get out of these 3 days in Japan, whether this is maybe testing the waters for maybe a PLE in Japan.
It will be very interesting.
Could be a thing, couldn't it? We know that Meiko Satomura has been announced for these shows and be the first time involved on, in a WWE ring, if that is the case that they go for, in well over a year. So we're going to see Meiko back, right place to do it as well. Yeah, and very intrigued by what they pull out here, but obviously it means that you'll probably need a spoiler warning for the news on Saturday. Yes. We'll probably tell you what happened on the SmackDown on Saturday.
I think it's very exciting because we've seen evidence of Triple H since he took over, immediately trying to make WWE more international, expand it, having these PLEs in places like the UK, in Puerto Rico. Recently there was the live events in Mexico as well. I know they've always toured live events around the world, but it's interesting to see them have more big shows in these different places. And it's always particularly interesting when one of these big shows happens to be in a place in the world where wrestling, it's like a wrestling hotbed. And Japan is somewhere where wrestling is massively popular, but is also treated in a very unique way.
Yeah, the culture around wrestling's different to the culture that WWE has in wrestling.
Right, just like you might see in a place like Mexico or a place, there's even differences between the UK and the US in terms of how wrestling is treated. So it's always very interesting to see how WWE adapts its product to those different wrestling cultures, or how those cultures adapt themselves to WWE.
Ooh, it'll be very interesting to see how it all goes down, and we'll keep an eye on it for you at Cultaholic.com. And for the very latest wrestling news throughout the day, you can check out Cultaholic.com. I'll say it one more time for good luck. Cultaholic.com.
Cultaholic.com.
There's Dave. Love
Cultaholic.com.
you. Bye. .com.